to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I don't believe we have anyone for public comment, so we will move on to number 4, approval of the May 2nd, 2024 meeting minutes. We have a motion by Supervisor Rosenberg and a second by Supervisor Seefeld. All in favor? Aye. That motion is passed. We will continue on to number 5, policy issues, discussion, and potential committee determination. A, Uniquely Wisconsin program participation history and discussion of whether the county should seek to participate in the program again.
Madam Chair, I'll be rather brief here. Within your packet is some information about the Wisconsin Counties Association Uniquely Wisconsin program, and it highlights at least one of the videos that came out of Marathon County's participation. But simply put, it's Uniquely Wisconsin was something that came out of the Wisconsin Counties Association in partnership with Discover Wisconsin. And it was something that came out of the pandemic to really highlight some of the experiences that are available or some of the unique areas within each of the counties throughout the state, and counties were approached with the opportunity to participate. Marathon County was one of those early adopters, so credit to the county board for participating in that. We had 3 videos that were generated. They're referenced within the materials. One of those videos, a video that highlighted an experience. If you haven't had it, you should perhaps take advantage. Stony Acres Night on the Farm, talking about really the unique niche that comes out with local agricultural farm to table and some of those unique experiences that you're able to have out at that location. And that actually won an Emmy. It was Discover Wisconsin's first Emmy that they've ever won. It's actually sitting in my office. I have to find a place to display that proudly for the county. But really a pretty solid program, and in conversations I have with one of the people that really pushed it forward it's Josh Schoeman from Washington County. He's a county executive, and I've had a couple of conversations. They're looking for more participants if counties are interested. My understanding is that there are a couple counties that are joining in for a second, to go at it a second time, and I wanted to bring that back to this committee. I haven't reached out to Wisconsin Counties Association to kind of see if anything has changed in terms of what participation might look like. I will say Marathon County was, I think, very, we were leaders in this process, working with Discover Wisconsin. One of the things that comes out of this, not only you get the videos, but you do get access to B-roll footage. That was actually our idea, sitting down with myself and our communications person. So now all the other counties in the state have the same access. So I think if we do want to do it, I certainly would take direction from this committee to start to have those conversations, see what that proposal might look like, come back with a cost estimate. I don't know if the cost has changed. It was $60,000 initially. Marathon County partnered with the Convention and Visitors Bureau. So we asked for a $10,000 contribution from them. We put forward our $50,000, and then we involved them in the process for kind of talking about how we wanted to proceed with the videos and market those videos. So certainly happy to start to have those conversations. That said, I more than have enough on my plate. If you're content with not having kind of taking another go round, but certainly thought it was worthy of a conversation. And if you do have any questions, I can try to answer them, but I think the information in the Counties Association magazine is relatively straightforward.
Okay, thank you for that. Does anyone have any comments, suggestions, recommendations? Yes?
Question on the program. I think that there is some value in this. $60,000, even though we have a huge budget, is a decent amount. Any idea what sources we could use to fund this internally? I think it would be important that we would look for some partnership with some of our tourism entities around us, but any ideas from our portion?
I certainly know the last time we looked to participate, we did use American Rescue Plan Act funds. I certainly think there's no reason we couldn't do that again. I do know we have some funds still available. I agree with that was the motivation for us reaching out to the CVB last time was there's some shared skin in the game. What do you want to highlight to bring people here to visit? I'd be happy to have that conversation with Director Tim White. So those are off the top of my head, I think, consistent approach the second time. If there is a desire for kind of continued participation, and I don't know what that might look like, it might also be worthwhile to reach out to municipalities. I know room tax dollars are something that the CVB frequently talks about with municipalities. Perhaps that's something that they want to make more of a long-term investment in, but I can talk to Tim White about that as well. Hope that answers the question.
I have a question. Do we have any data at all on any impact economically that we received from being involved in that?
I can look to see if there's direct economic impact. I think Tim White would probably be a good person to talk to about that. I can tell you about one thing when I looked at this a number of months ago when I presented to the county board after we received the Emmy at a counties association event. You can see the views. One of the ways that people can access these videos is on YouTube. And you can see the number of impressions that were had there. And I know Discover Wisconsin also keeps track of impressions they have through their various podcasts and other ways that they release this information. But short answer, no. I don't have that.
Any other comments, questions? Okay.
I hate to put you on the spot, but could you give us an estimate on what kind of time commitment this was for you? You kind of alluded to you have enough on your plate. Would this be a big time sucker, or would this be valuable for you or your staff?
I delegated a lot of this the last time. My communications person really took the lead on the county side. I think having gone through it once, we learned a fair amount. And partnering with Tim White, I think the same thing would be true. So I'm not overly concerned from a resource standpoint. It's also, just want to be clear, I mean, you have, as a committee, have enough other things to talk about as well, but I didn't want you to lose out on the opportunity to say, hey, is this something that we want to do? And the counties association is looking for more participants. And I didn't want to spend the time reaching out to them. That shouldn't take long just to see, hey, what participation, what does that look like? Where are we in the queue? Because they do try to handle a number of counties at a time. So I don't know if they have kind of how much participation they're at right now, but I do know a number of peer counties that I talk to frequently have opted in for another round.
So now we need to decide if this is something we want to move forward with or not, so.
I'll make a motion to direct staff to move forward getting a cost estimate to participate in the Uniquely Wisconsin program.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second? Okay, Supervisor Rosenberg with the second. All in favor? Aye. Any nays? No? All right. Unanimously passed. All right, and then on to 6, operational functions required by statute, ordinance, resolution, or policy. None. 7, educational presentations and committee discussion. A, update from ECDC Multicultural Community Center on refugee resettlement efforts. So we have Janice Watson with us today to present. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. I have some documents here. There's some stuff here as well. I only have 2 forms. If you want to look at those. Thanks. My name is Janice Watson. I am the executive director for ECDC. I've been in this role for 4.5 months. Started in January. So just want to talk about some things that are happening right now with refugee resettlement here in central Wisconsin, most so in Wausau. All right, so far this year, as of yesterday. We have 148 persons who've come to central Wisconsin itself. Some here in Wausau, and so we have Wausau, Stevens Point, Barron. We have a family in Wisconsin Rapids as well. More so, you'll see some of those information on that document that you have right now that Tana is passing out. The families that we have most of course, our Afghanistan families, folks from Afghanistan, Burma, so they are mostly Rohingyan families, Congolese, and then Somalia, and the Somali folks are in Barron County. And then you'll see a list of the other families that we have that are here as well. Many of the families come, that they do not speak English, or some people now, we're seeing it more now where there are more English speakers, which is great. In March alone, we had 48 people come, and out of that 48, in each family, there was someone that spoke English, except for a Spanish family that's in Stevens Point at this point. There's a little English in that family. In the Rohingyan or the Burmese group, if you guys know just a little bit history of those families in Burma, the war in Burma where people have to leave and then go into, they're in Bangladeshi camps, and that is the biggest camp in the world right now with over 1 million people. A lot of these folks have been living in the camps for many, many years. It's the same thing with the Congo, the folks in Congo. Our Burmese folks come in, they do not have a written language. They come with spoken language only. So currently we only have one English-speaking Rohingyan person that's here. He works in our office, and so he's very active in going out into the community, into the schools to be the person that translates. We work very closely with the school department, and so they do have a translation system where they can, teachers can use, and the children, if they need translation, they can help there. You can see just based on the numbers how many females we have, how many children, and just out migration. So there are people that are leaving our community to go into other communities, other states, because they have family members there. But we're seeing a lot more that wants to come to central Wisconsin based on their families that are here. And so not much here yet in Wausau, but more so in the Stevens Point area. We're seeing people out migrate from different states to come to Stevens Point. What you're not seeing here now, we also working with asylees that come in, so they're from Cuba and Haiti. You might see some Venezuelan, Nicaraguan, and Colombian folks come in. They come into the office. We check to make sure their status. Let me just make sure everybody knows this. Every refugee or asylee that comes in is they're eligible to work right away. So we do not see folks, you have to be, you come through the process to be able to work. So everybody is legal to be a part of the ECDC program. So we cannot work with folks who do not have their legal status. I just wanted to just make sure I point that out. And so to date, we have quite a few people working. Some of our bigger employees are Great Lakes Cheese, Merrill Steel. We have another group of folks that started Aspirus Health this morning, and we had some that started a month ago. And of course, we have other smaller employers that we're working with here in Wausau and in the Stevens Point area. So if you have questions, I bet you might have questions, please feel free to ask.
Any questions? Supervisor Rosenberg?
Yeah, are all these people then, because they're here legally, have work permits, are they eligible for citizenship when the clock runs out?
So there's a process. After a year and a half, they all can apply to get their green cards, and then after 5 years, everybody can get their citizenships. So yes, they come in with an EAD card, which is a legal work document that is given to them by the State Department before they even come here. And so when they come, that document is then sent. Everybody either get their Social Security on their way there, or when they come here, we take them to the Social Security office and get that right away.
How do they arrive here? How do they get from wherever they are to here?
So they are sent, so folks are sent through the State Department, then there's a whole system. It comes that way, then it goes to our national office, which is in Arlington, and all the other resettlement agencies have national offices that they work with. And then we then get an email, or it's in the database that we have a group of family come in here. They will then take a plane from wherever they're coming from. And then they end up here at CWA. And as a staff, we start the process before they come, so we know, let's say maybe a month ahead of time, sometimes it's 2 weeks ahead of time that the folks are coming in, and then we get them housing. We find them a whole lot of stuff, but the first thing is finding housing, and we work with some amazing landlords and management companies to get our folks housed.
So these are the planes I'm hearing about that the State Department is flying in with people on them, refugees, and there's already a place for them, and there's a whole system. They're not just flying into the airport and looking around.
No.
There's a whole
No, there is a full system. No one, if you're a refugee, you have to come through that process. It's not a plane of immigrants and refugees. There's a whole plane of these folks. They are traveling with just traditional people from whichever country they're coming from. So our family that came in yesterday, came in, they landed in New York. They flew into New York with other families wherever they were flying from New York to Chicago, and from Chicago to here.
Thank you.
No.
I'm just going to add one little piece. Tana Delaney, Community Engagement Coordinator. Thank you so much for having us. I just want to add to that. The average application process for a refugee, it's about 2 years, 18 to 24 months. It's very rigorous. So there's lots of checkpoints, lots of interviews, lots of paperwork, lots of medical pieces that go into it. So it's very, very rigorous to come through that pipeline.
Sure. Jeremy?
Thank you. I just wanted to add a piece in here because I think it's often lost. First, thanks for all your good work. But Extension recently hired one of the Afghan refugees, and I had a chance to meet him. And the thing that struck me that I think that often gets lost is a lot of these folks are professional, like highly educated professional folks. This gentleman was communication within the president's office before he came here. So it's, the whole range of folks. We often think that, it's just whoever winds up here, unskilled, uneducated. That's definitely not the case. So I just wanted to add that piece in.
Thank you for saying that. I mean, we have several persons right now. There's one gentleman that's working in our office. We just hired him last week. He speaks 7 languages. He has worked for the U.S. government. Many of our Afghan families that are here are connected to the U.S. government based on the war that was there. And so we might speak to them. I think they would love to hear more about WASA, and you then hear their stories and some of the things that they've gone through. We have everybody in our family. At the office, we have a Congolese young man who works for our office right now, and we have the Rohingya, and we have a Dari-speaking female. If you know much about the Afghan population, the Dari population is, they're not, our Pashto population are the ones that are working, doctors and stuff like that, and so our Dari worked hard to get to where they're going, so there's so much to learn.
So I have a question. So you said there's a 2-year application process. So how do the families get chosen to come here?
So there's not a 2-year application process.
Oh.
It's more than that. I think what it takes 2 years to go through once you're
through the
chosen.
process. Okay.
Yes. So the process, there are people that are in camps that were chosen 10 years ago and still are not here. So the process is not, and it's not something that we know. This is really through the federal government. Their process is their process. We just know when they come through the system and they come that way, that they're coming legally. Yeah, it's really, thank you, Tana. It is a presidential determination as to who really does come here.
And then with Wisconsin on its own, Wisconsin can receive up to 125,000 refugees a year. Is that?
No, that's incorrect. The 125,000 refugees for the whole United States.
Oh, for the
So there's a sheet that I have in that's here that you can see. So that is not, Wisconsin alone cannot host that. So that's for the U.S.
So with your agency, what percentages are federal, state, and local monies? Do you have that information?
I cannot, I can tell you right now our agency is mostly federally funded. I can't tell you I can't give you the percentage. I can get that back to you, but our local funding are mainly private funders, and we're applying for grants with the United Way and other organizations currently.
Are the school districts being prepared for the new students in any way? Is there any additional government assistance to help with additional staff or services for them?
That would be something we would need to speak with the school department to see how they set up their system. All we do is we bring the students there, and then they then work through their process. Their process is different than our process. Yeah.
I can add just a little bit to that as well to give you an idea. So, part of my role is making partnerships, public education, going out, making presentations. So there's definitely been a few things I've already done. I'm pretty new in this role, only about 4.5 months in, but I have met with DC Everest. Like, we've done some tabling, like during their lunchtime, just educationally to go and talk. They actually started, it's brand new this school year is basically over, but brand new this past school year, DC Everest started a student organization called MOI. It's an acronym. I don't remember exactly what it stands for, but it serves as like a welcoming organization, students that want to work like with our refugees, with our immigrants, with all of those students that are within that district. And then something else that's really worth highlighting is John Marshall has a newcomer center. So if you have or have not heard about that, like, go check it out if you can. It's really fabulous. It's a classroom specifically designed. Like, it's a lot of our refugees, again, other immigrants, secondary migrants, but it's specifically, for those youth that maybe have higher barrier needs, more significant needs. Obviously, there's a lot of trauma that comes with our population, right? So the goal is to serve them in that way, meet them where they're at, and then eventually, once they're ready and they have more proficiency in English, get them into those regular classrooms for integration. But honestly, there's been some really fantastic work with the school district that I've been really privileged to be a part for both WASA and DC Everest. So,
thank you. And then English as a second language, what kind of classes are offered for that? And is there any kind of a program, and what does that look like?
I mean, we partner with all of the English language services here in Wausau and in Stevens Point. So we work with NTC, where they offer online classes, and also students can go in and take the classes there. We're working with McLit, where folks can go either to McLit or take their online classes. And one of our oldest partners is New Beginnings for Refugees, where they've been doing English as a second language since we opened. And so they work with everybody, really the adults, because the children are in school, the adults from 0 all the way up to 2 in languages. And we're starting a partnership with the UW here just to start for those people come in that are English ready and ready to go to college, and just to transition them into that program.
So when I attended your last meeting, it was said that 3 out of 4 find employment within the first 90 days. So what happens if they're not finding employment within a certain amount of time? What kind of things are done?
So we work with all of the community-based organizations such as FSET, W2, and all of those organizations. And what folks can do is volunteer, which many of them are doing, going back to schools or taking their ELL classes. Some of them might just not be ready to go out, and so they're involved in something just to make sure they're advancing either in their English or doing volunteer work. I'll give you an example. Zara, who is a staff now for us, did not have a job, but she volunteered with New Beginnings to assist with their food pantry, and now she's working with us. And so we want to make sure people are engaged in activities within the community. So if you're looking for volunteers, and we have people. If you're looking for people to employ, we have people that are capable of working in your facilities.
Is there a limit to how many refugees each municipality would have resettled per year? Because let's say they come to Wausau, but they can be resettled within a 100-mile radius, right? So is there any kind of...
It's based, so here in Wausau is the groups that we work with. So of course we work with Portage County, Marathon, what's Wisconsin Rapids again? Wood County. And so depending on where we lie, and so we won't go out of the municipalities that we have the relationships with. I think for us, those are the counties that we work closely with. And so I'm not going to go beyond that to resettle folks, because there might already be a resettlement agency doing that.
I think that covers my questions for today. Does anyone have any other ones? No? Well, thank you very much for coming to present. I really appreciate it, and I wish everyone well, and we're happy to have them assist with our economic development and our workforce here. Hopefully, we can find them positions that they're happy in. So thank you very much.
Thanks for having us.
And next, we will go on to 7B, the West Side Master Plan Update with Jamie Polly.
There we go. Thank you for having me. This is one committee meeting I haven't been to before, so I appreciate the time to come and present on one of the items that we're doing. So I am Jamie Polly, Director of Parks, Recreation, and Forestry for Wausau and Marathon County. But I've been asked to talk today about an update to our West Side Master Plan, which the County Board approved in early 2023, March of 2023. This is a study that we did over all of 2022 to look at Marathon Park, the area south of Marathon Park on West Street, and then the UW campus and some of the buildings the county owns all the buildings, but some of the buildings that have no longer being used or are in need of just development, lots that are open, that sort of thing. So we went through this process. I can give you an update on where we are at today. It's something that it's always evolving because the park is always changing and everything with it. But just to go back, kind of an overview of this area, I thought this was interesting, what's changed. This was 1938, so 18 years. Continue to maintain those facilities as they are, but we will not be able to change those or move those in any way. And Supervisor Seefeld can probably talk more to that from a fair perspective. But so this first time that this master plan was done was in 2007, and it had a few things. It looked at the same areas. It had some redevelopment on West Street. It had some more housing that were being added, some redevelopment within the park, and then the biggest thing that came out of that plan that was built was the theater building that's on the UW campus came out of that plan. And then we moved around to field buildings and rebuilt our amphitheater in the park. But going forward, when we moved forward from that plan in 2007, we looked at what had been done. So I just talked about those things that had been done, and then what we were going to look at now as we move into the kind of the next generation. So we did community surveys and a lot of information about what is most needed in the park. As you can see, ice is a huge one, so I'll touch on where we're at with that as well. But then, parkings, playgrounds, the amenities that the park has always had to keep it a community-based park. One of our goals from our department is to really I mean, Marathon Park is a gem in Wausau. It's just under 80 acres, right as you come into the community. But it is gravel. It's a lot of gravel. And so the idea would be to hopefully get the park at some point kind of like a central park with that feeling of safety when you're in it, not people racing and doing donuts in the middle of the park where the raceway was, maybe not being struck by lightning from a tree, as Rick almost was on Tuesday. But we have to look at the long-term ability of the park. So I don't know if you heard about him almost getting struck by lightning. I have proof of where the tree was. So other uses are, mainly to keep it park space, and this is the area south of the park, which is that West Street. We went into this premise with the highway department is moving. The highway department has outgrown their facility on the corner of West and 17th, and we need to move them off that site for county purposes, just for operational purposes, which I know many of the county board supervisors have heard a lot about and will continue to hear about as we move forward with that. But what do we do with that site then when highway moves? Emergency management is also moving as we're going to build the new Forensic Science Center. So that building will come down, and an old cold storage building that the county owned has already come down. So we have a big green space kind of in the middle of that street. But out of all the surveys and the community output that we had, additional park space was at the top of that list. So how do we utilize that to expand the park? Some active uses, some passive uses. But really, if we want to get to the point of having like a central park feel, getting that pickleball court, especially out and expanding it because the demand is so high for pickleball, is kind of that top priority. And then we can redevelop that space to be green space. So ultimately, what came out of the plan and what was adopted by County Board in the February of 2023, I think I said March, but February, was this plan that's on the screen. And as you can see, a lot more green space than what is there now. So where the midway is currently, I don't know if you can see my mouse on there, but just to the right of the grandstand area is currently the midway where it's all gravel. That would have an actual road go through it with some roundabouts, some trees, making it a nice flow through the park. And then you see the pickleball courts are moved to the south. And then the midway where the fair would go, because one of the requirements for Marathon Park when it was given to the county in 1920 was that we had to continue to allow fairs to be at the park. Now, they can have more than one if they wanted to, but they only have one at the moment, and we need to make sure we can accommodate their operations, which is essentially their midway, their grandstand, and then all of the livestock areas that are part of that fair. So we worked with them. We got a lot of input with them. I can't say that we necessarily have 100% buy-in on this plan, but I think we have support for the planning going forward. So that's another thing with this master plan. It is a master plan. It's a long-term master plan for the next 15 plus years, what we'll work on. And these things are not necessarily edged in stone. It's a guide for how we want to envision the park. And then each component has a planning portion to it for where we need to do further research and further planning and further development of what it actually will cost to do it. So it was laid out into different timing and phasing. You can see there's about 3 years, 2023, 24, 25, 3-year time slots of what our goals are to try to hit with looking and keeping this plan moving forward and deciding, do we move forward with something, do we not? So where we're currently at, that 2023 to 2025, it had in that time frame Eastgate Hall improvements, utility improvements, splash pad replacement, playground replacement, campus residential redevelopment, multi-purpose feasibility planning. So what we've done today is actually quite a bit of that, and I really hadn't been keeping track till I put this all together, and I was like, well, we've done quite a bit. With the help of ARPA dollars mainly, and the support of the county board, definitely to get this done, has been why we've been able to move forward. But we replaced the utility upgrades. We're replacing the complete water main and all the laterals throughout the park because that infrastructure, we don't really know how old it was, but it was very, very old, and it didn't meet code anymore in a lot of places. So that was all replaced in 2023. It was about a $950,000 project. I can say it came in at about $870 when I just yesterday, actually, because I need to look at additional funding for a different project that we're doing, and we're about $70,000 under budget on this project. So still a $900,000 upgrade to the park. Eastgate Hall improvements were also approved, and they are almost near completion. After next week, they will be completed. But what we've already done to the building is new flooring, new ceiling tile, new lighting, fans, new windows, new siding, new roofing. You'll see the front has a little bit different facade on it. I still have some ideas of what I want to make to the front to make it a little bit more of that wedding venue. It's just mainly landscaping and the railing that's out front. But and then something with those doors. The doors we're not replacing because they're very, very good doors. We're just going to make them look a little nicer. But what we still have left to do is the kitchen area will be updated starting on the 10th for the next week. We'll get new cabinets, new flooring in there. So then essentially all of Eastgate Hall will have been renovated. That is our biggest revenue generator for the county as far as facility rentals. And I think with the ability to, with the acoustics that were improved in there, just the amenities that were put in there, it was same amenities that were there, just updated. I think we'll get a lot more rentals, so that's a revenue generation for us. And then the Junction Playground has been removed. That was a very small playground just to the north of the Marathon Junction. We had to remove that because we had vandalism there and we could no longer get the parts. So we took the playground out at this point so that it was safe. Another big area that we've been working on is our multipurpose feasibility study. So multipurpose buildings are ice arenas. As many of you have heard, we've had one ice arena with 2 sheets of ice in Marathon Park. The first main sheet of ice was built in 1974, and the refrigeration system that Marathon County bought to put in the arena was used from Eagle River, and we are keeping it alive today still, knock on wood. So it's well over 50 years old. We don't know how old that is, but it's very inefficient. It has a lot of maintenance to it. It really could go down at any portion. That's for the main sheet. That also runs the second sheet. So we've added another sheet onto that compressor system and still have it running. This is a highly used facility. Over the years, we have done some upgrades to it, like it's gotten new boards in both rinks for safety, new boards and glass. We've done new flooring, done some painting, but really the building also has some major needs of improvement to it, such as new roof, which is we need a new cooling tower on it. Like I said, it has some leaks, the new refrigeration system. The refrigeration system, basically the entire operations of the rink, needs to be updated. So as we look at this, right now our ice arenas is just a seasonal facility. We have ice in from the end of September through March. We cannot extend the season in any way before or after, because if any heat at all is outside, the condensation just melts the ice on the bottom. So we have a very set ice season. We have multiple user groups that use this facility, 3 high school teams, 2 East-West Storm. We have a NH3L team, the Cyclones that use it. We have a Youth Hockey Association. We have 4 different adult men's and family leagues that use it, plus figure skating, and then our own open skate. So we have very large group of users. So what we've done with this is we got $32,000 from different donations, some of those users, and then we received a $300,000 FEMA grant to look at if we were to rebuild this facility, if we could make it into a safe room, because we don't have a community space like that in the community. So where we are, we started this last November with stakeholder meeting groups with all of the different users, plus just the public. We have preliminary design. So you are seeing this box for the first time. It's not something we're ready to really put out there yet and there's a lot more detail to this box that you see on here than what's there. But what we're looking at is still a 2-sheet facility. That one sheet of ice would be year-round. The demand is there, and we'll get more information on that as well. We've got this preliminary design. Now this design is with some structural engineers looking at the FEMA portion, because they need to look at this facility and determine what area of it would be best for a safe room. Is it 1 sheet of ice that would be a safe room? Is it the locker room area? What would it be? And then what does that add on to that area? Because whatever is a safe room needs to be structurally sound. It needs to meet certain FEMA guidelines, as well as have the systems for backup generation water. If we're in an emergency, a natural disaster emergency or any type of thing, you need the lights on and the water running if you're going to have thousands of people there for safety. So that is where it's currently at with that design. As a Parallel to that, we also have a sub-consultant through our architects called Ballard and King, who's doing an economic impact analysis on this arena, where we've given them all of our revenues and expenses, and they're working with the user groups to see, you know, what would people pay more for this facility, what other opportunities could we have, and they'll bring that back to us when we have the final plans, the final cost estimating. We'll also have this economic impact analysis where we can show whether we can make money, whether we're going to be in the red, you know, and how we need to overcome those barriers before we would go out and fundraise for it. So the next step for that is for that final design cost estimating, and then when we're ready, we'll bring it through the Park Commission to the county board for approval, and then the fundraising begins. And it's going to be an expensive project. I'm not going to hold back on that, but I think it's going to be very good for our community. So of that list, Eastgate Hall was done, the utilities were done, the playground replacement hasn't been done, but it's taken out, and the multipurpose feasibility study planning. So the next things on there is the splash pad replacement, looking at that playground, and then the campus residential redevelopment, which I have not done anything with. I know that there's been talk about different things to do with the residence hall. Nothing to date has been done on that. Yeah, so I know RFP went out and there wasn't much takers on it, so that's still a part of this 3-year plan. The next steps for me, though, is you will see, the county board will see going forward as a CIP request to replace the splash pad, and also a CIP request for the planning of the family area, which that's where we have a master plan, but now we need sub-plans within that, really looking at the junction, the splash pad, the train, and the playground and the bathrooms that are kind of in that area of Marathon Park, to see how do we make this area family friendly? What do we put there to bring people into this park? And the junction has a lot of repairs that need to be done, and it's highly underutilized. So do we take it down and build something else? Do we renovate it? That will be part of that planning process. Right now, we need to do something with it. It is not generating the revenue that we need it to do. It has multiple repairs, so it's a facility that needs some attention. The splash pad, that was going to be part of this planning area, but like I said, this is a long-term plan. The splash pad currently today is not open because we're having some major problems with trying to keep the pump going. We think we have a leak underground. We don't know if it's a intake leak or I can't remember the other term for it, but it's 20 plus years old. Actually, it's 20 years old. It was put in 2004, and it's beyond its useful life. It's just like a playground. It's usually that 15-year. So we have some needs for that. The Marathon Park's always had a water feature. Since the beginning of time, it had a pond, then it had another bigger pond and a fountain, then it had a wading pool, and it had the splash pad. So this is something we can decide on if the CIP request, as we talk through that, of whether we remain having a water feature in here or we replace it, but it does need to be rebuilt. And because this is a long-term plan, I think the rebuilding of the splash pad is a great amenity to the park, and is a need to do that. And even if we plan to do something different with the splash pad 5, 10, 15 years from now, it's beneficial to update it now and have it available for our community and then work around that new amenity. So that is a CIP request that's coming forward. And that is really the update of where we are at, progress that's done, and things to come. So.
I can add a little bit on the residential part that Jamie referenced. As part of that West Side Master Plan, there's one piece just to the north, actually. I think it's on the picture, right? The parking
I'll pull
lot.
up the bigger picture.
It's
Right
you
here.
probably don't see it there.
Number 34 on the very top.
So there's, if you're familiar with that area of town, there's currently a parking lot that previously served the university when they did have the residence hall, because there's no parking immediately adjacent to the residence hall. That parking lot, of course, has not been used in a substantial fashion for a period of time. Working with the HR Finance and Property Committee, that was one of the parcels that they directed county administration to look into redevelopment, and we had some conversations with the city. Initially, the city of Wausau didn't express strong interest in it, in that parking lot. So we started to move forward with the city's assistance. They gave us some templates for requests for proposals for redevelopment, and then we had further conversations, and I think it's reasonably likely that we're going to be able to redevelop those in partnership with the Community Development Authority. So that's one residential project that I think is moving forward. The other part that Jamie referenced, the residence hall itself, the dormitory, that is kind of a tougher nut to crack in terms of what is the future for that. We had put out a request for proposal for redevelopment for it. We had some initial interest, walked some people through. Ultimately, that didn't pan out. That was a number of years ago. We didn't have any responses. That facility if you were going to use it, it is in dire need of a lot of renovation. So I think we need to, similar to what Jamie's talking about, really take a planful, intentional approach to evaluating what those future uses are. You're going to be receiving an update from the university at your full board meeting later this month. So I think with those insights we learned there, you'll be able to give staff some direction on kind of what you think are next steps. It could be everything from, hey, we want to redevelop this into some housing and figure out what additional incentives the county could provide, all the way back down to the other side where Jamie said, there used to be a cold storage building on West Street. There is not anymore. It is gone. So we could raise that facility. The other thing Jamie alluded to, emergency management on West Street. We had emergency management historically, and then we also still have the medical examiner's office. With the Regional Forensic Science Center, the medical examiner's office will of course be relocated, so that building can be repurposed, or that area can be redeveloped. Emergency management is already out of that facility, so the county has some options. As Jamie said, the plan is the vision. Each time you got to determine, okay, what's that next step look like? Do a kind of more specific plan if needed, and then determine kind of the course of action based on funding. But quite a bit of progress has been made. I think Jamie alluded to Eastgate Hall. The pictures I saw from Eastgate Hall were a while ago, but they looked amazing. I've heard from a couple people that have been in there since that it really was the facelift that building needed. So a lot of good stuff happening on that based on the master plan, even to this point. So again, kudos to the county board for at least setting the vision. I mean, we had a master plan in 2007. Some things had substantially changed from that 2007 thought process. Initially, if you go back to the slides, it talks about, hey, the university is going to expand. I think one thing we can all agree on, we don't need more academic space at the UW. We have to figure out how to better use that space, and you'll hear a lot about that later this month from UW Stevens Point Wausau leadership. So when those facts changed, it warranted a new plan, and we certainly have that.
Well, thank you very much for your update. Does anyone have any questions or comments for Jamie? Supervisor Seefeld?
Thank you, Madam Chair. As Jamie alluded to the exhibition buildings and the cattle barns and the pavilion, they are historical buildings, and with the Fair Board, working with the Park Department to maintain these buildings, the Park Department has done an excellent job of maintaining these buildings. Actually, they put 2 new roofs, or re-shingled the 2 cattle barns. Was it a year ago, I think?
Last year, yep.
Yep. So, when the fair, when this came out, I brought it to the Fair Board, and they says, holy man, look at this. But as we went through the process of looking at it, actually moving the Midway over to where it is going to be on this site is going to be a bigger Midway,
Correct.
truthfully, and the park, like Jamie said, when you drive in and you go past the exhibition building and the junction, there's a lot of wasted space there. And I do feel that bringing it in to where we can have more, more trees, more playground, it would be beneficial to the park as far as users. And putting up another multi-purpose building would be great, but I don't know if that can happen because, as Jamie said, there is so many people looking for sheets of ice to go on. I think it's what DC Everest has a sheet,
That's one. Yep.
and that's book solid. It's crazy what people use, for figure skating and hockey, and as you know, sports for kids, younger generation, it used to be, okay, you played football, basketball, and wrestling. Now, it's pretty much you concentrate on one sport. So you're doing this year-round. So having a sheet of ice year-round would benefit to the county and would be bringing in revenue and over the years help pay for itself. The Fair Board is fine with this redoing the park. It took a while to talk them into it, but we got it done, and of course that's down the road a ways, quite a ways. But I would encourage everybody to really think about this layout here, and I think it'll be a big benefit to Marathon Park. And as Jamie alluded the other day, Tuesday, I was in the park, and 50 feet in front of me, I seen a flash of lightning and a tree explode, and I'm sitting in the truck, and the truck is moving, and I wasn't moving it. So, and it happened to be one of our nice maple trees.
The shortest tree in the park.
Yeah.
One of them.
Yeah. And my wife commented that she said, geez, that would have been funny. She said, a supervisor got hit with a tree, a county supervisor in the park, but anyway, but yeah, I think this is a good plan, and I hope the county keeps on going with it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions? Supervisor Rosenberg?
Do you have any plans for lightning rods there in the park?
There's a whole bunch on the exhibition building. I don't know. I didn't like that building.
I just had a comment. The pickleball enthusiasts are very concerned and have been approaching me often about when are these courts going to be moved, and I tried to calm them all down
It's gonna be a while.
and let them know that the ice arena is first, probably because we've been limping that along. And just as a plug, we're going to need more than 12 courts. So just a little FYI. And economic development wise, or bringing in revenue for the city and the county for renting that out in different tournaments that we could have would bring in a lot of money. So if we could do that, that would be great. Otherwise, I think it looks great, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Oh, Kim?
Thank you, Madam Chair. No, I remember bringing my kids to the water feature, the water park, years ago, and now I bring my grandkids. So I'm hoping that that can be revised and stays, because I know that really brings in a lot of young people, kids, and it's economical for families. So that would be something to save, redo, and to, enjoy for the next 20 years.
Yes, thank you.
Supervisor Rosenberg?
A pickleball court and a tennis court are not the same thing, and you can't dual use them?
They are not the same. You can dual use them. You can stripe them for both. The tennis court's just a little bit higher than a pickleball court, but it is done in many areas. It's just that you line the pickleball court. It's a smaller court than the tennis court, so you line it within. Or you could have them. You can dual line them anyway, and then you could have portable pickleball nets if you put them on each side. So there's lots of different ways to make a tennis court and a pickleball court work. But those pickleball players really want their own pickleball courts.
I hear from them too.
Yeah. I mean, one of the big things on this whole plan is the highway has to move in order to move the pickleball court. So tell them to keep watching that. But the ice arena, like on this plan, I didn't say that the ice arena is shown where the highway department is. But if highway doesn't move fast enough and I can't kick them out fast enough, it would flip-flop. So the ice arena could be placed on that green space that's currently there if the emergency management building comes down. And then when the highway does move, we would put those pickleball courts or athletic facilities on that corner. And, it might take some extra fencing because of the roads there and stuff like that, but it can be done and it can be beautified in that area.
And I'll just elaborate a little bit on that. You should see a plan. Jim and I just were meeting last week talking about working with Infrastructure Chair Pfeifferich about when we can get a presentation to the Infrastructure Committee on what it's going to take to relocate that primary highway facility. A little bit of background. It's not just relocate that. I mean, we have a number of highway shops. I think you can think back to the orientation we did. Finding the right location has always been a bit of a challenge. We had historically been looking to the north of the city of Wausau for a location and had a location. It went through county board and it was going to get done at the end of the year in 2019, and it ultimately course corrected, and we've been kind of trying to look for the right home. And I think we have a good site that would work very well. The next part is the finances, and just to, again, talk ballpark timing, you're generally in that 18 months design, 18 months construction, so it's going to take a minute. So if you're really good with some 1972 ice arena equipment, if you're a repair person, talk to Jamie. But we are trying to, there's just a lot. And I think, again, credit to the county board. You got with the master plan, and you actually did fund a number of things. The American Rescue Plan Act funds were very, very helpful in starting that process. The sustainability, the rest, the FEMA grant piece. The good news, not only did they give us money for the kind of the initial design, right? But generally speaking, you can't say that the feds would promise money, but if they design, that generally comes with, on the back end, with some construction money.
Yes, yeah, it's a very good sign that we got the design. So now when we're ready for construction, we can apply to them again for the construction. And historically, they have funded up to 3/4 of the cost of the safe room. So if that happens to be, one sheet of ice, let's say a third of the facility, we would get 3/4 of that third of the facility, which could be fairly substantial if they still stick to that ratio. This is a pretty large facility, but they've done that for, like, I think Stratford or Spencer, Stratford, I think, school district did a safe room. Their gym, their addition of their gym, it became a safe room. Spencer. And they funded 3/4 of the cost of that facility. So it is a very good thing, and we will definitely be seeking that opportunity.
How many people would be able to utilize the safe room at one time?
It will depend on, that's where the designers are at right now. It will depend on what part of the facility would be used for the safe room. Let's say they made one sheet of ice the safe room, and we had a flooring, like if there was ice, it was the middle of the winter, and we had a huge blizzard that we needed that space, we would have a flooring cover, just like they put ice sheets on top of basketball courts and basketball courts on top of ice arenas and stuff. But if it was that facility, that could be thousands that you could fit in there. If they would just take the center corridor, which is mainly the locker room area, we could probably still fit a couple of thousand, but not as big as the ice arena. So it all depends what area they determined to be the best locations for a safe room based on their calculations and then the cost that it would add. The idea was, when Phil, our emergency management director, and I applied for that grant, the idea is that Marathon Park holds some very large events. The fair alone can have thousands of people there at one time. Concerts that we have, that is kind of the driving force of the proximity of this facility and why it would be beneficial. So the bigger we can make it for like a disaster or natural event during the fair that we can get people in, the better. But we won't know those numbers till we get that design back.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? No? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Moving on to 7C, overview and update on UW Extension programming, including but not limited to specific information on 1, the FoodWise program overview and discussion, and 2, County Extension Partnership Guidance Document overview and opportunity for feedback.
All right. Thank you, Chair Marash. So I'll do a little intro as the team gets ready to present. I think easier there or here? Just go here? All right. That works. So, all right. Michelle's in charge. As we talked about at last meeting, our plan is to share kind of one program area each month. So opportunity to learn a little bit more about that program and then provide feedback about other opportunities related to that programming. So we're kicking it off this month with FoodWise. FoodWise is a bit of an exception among our programs in that it's fully federally funded. So the county provides some space and IT support, but otherwise all the funding that is needed for the program is provided federally through a grant to the state and then locally. So I'm going to turn it over to Mallory and Julia and Michelle to provide the overview. You want this one?
Yeah, we'll share. Well, I want to say, first of all, the last presentation got me thinking a lot about my good memories at the pool, too, under the mushroom waterfall. Very fun. I had to throw that in there. So yes, thanks, Jeremy. We are here to present on the FoodWise program. So we are a SNAP-funded program that is housed within UW-Madison Division of Extension. And we are all here as part of a 4-county team. So my name is Mallory McGivern. I'm the FoodWise administrator, and I work in Clark, Portage, Marathon, and Wood counties, and I support the nutrition educators that work in each of those counties.
Hi, I feel a little silly introducing myself, but Michelle Van Cray, I'm the Healthy Communities Coordinator. I have been with FoodWise for just about a year now, and I serve that same 4-county region that Mallory and Jeremy do.
I'm Julia Pirock. I'm the nutrition educator in just Marathon County, and I have been here for almost a year. It will be a year at the end of July.
All right, so as Mallory alluded to, our program is FoodWise. We are under UW Extension, but we are federally funded through SNAP, which is the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, or Food Share or food stamps. You might be more familiar with that terminology. And we have team members throughout the whole entire state doing work, not just within Marathon County or this 4-county region.
So we are a statewide program. There are staff and educators across Wisconsin's counties, not just this area. And we really, as a FoodWise team, prioritize partnerships. That's really how we reach our low-income audiences. And you can see just a little stat here. In 2023, our statewide colleagues, we collaborated with 832 community and tribal partners to increase healthy, active living for Wisconsinites.
Here are just some statistics for you. I'll focus on the local ones for Marathon County. So you'll see that 6% of county residents experience limited income and low access to grocery store. And then 9% of county residents use SNAP benefits to purchase food for themselves and their families. And because our program is SNAP funded, we are focused on that population who is eligible for SNAP benefits.
Yeah, not necessarily utilizing the SNAP program, but just that they would be eligible for it is just a caveat, I would say. So some of the ways that we work, again, like our priorities are reaching people where they are. So a lot of our partners wind up being schools. We'll go into K through 12 schools and work with kiddos. Also, any kind of community organization. We have a list of some of our partners here. Something else to prioritize for us is using learner-centered approaches. So we really want our messaging to be relevant to the audiences that we're serving. And then all of our curricula is evidence-based.
So we will show you some slides on how we work in the community with audience-driven messages. We support changes to policies, systems, and environments and engage with local partners and coalitions. So this year, I had the opportunity to work with first and third graders to give them a 5-week nutrition series. I used evidence-based curriculum surrounding MyPlate. If you don't know what MyPlate is, it's the current USDA graphic. It used to be the pyramid, but they moved away from that. I introduced one food group per week, and then we did an activity, and I always ended the lesson with a food sample to get them trying new foods.
So policy, systems, and environmental change is something we do a lot within Extension. It's referred to as PSE. So if you ever hear somebody talk about that, that is what they're referring to. And it can be kind of a complex idea. It did take me a while to wrap my head around what it meant. And so I'll give just an example. This is not specific to anything we're doing here. It's just an example of what PSE can be. So if we're looking at a school, a policy change within a school would be changing some sort of wellness policy to take sodas out of the vending machine, to have a healthier drink option in a vending machine. That would be a policy change. Then a systems change would be working with the food service director, connecting them with local farms to maybe implement a farm to school program where they're buying local produce, then they're bringing it into the school to process and then serve meals to the kids. And then an environmental change would be something physical, kind of like a garden at a school. You would have the educational component of having a garden at a school, and then you could implement whatever food was grown there as like part of a snack program or back into the kitchen. And so that is the idea around policy, systems, and environmental change. So it's been really interesting as Julia is forming relationships within the Wausau School District. We are trying to work with those food service directors and maintaining relationships, growing relationships with them to work with their Harvest of the Month program, and hope to connect them with local farmers to maybe build a more robust Harvest of the Month program. And then another area of PSC that we are working on in Marathon County is working with farmers markets to help bolster their EBT program so people can go to a farmers market and use their SNAP benefits there.
I will say too, just something to note, I think over time the FoodWise program has shifted. There was a really heavy focus on direct education, so like what Julia's doing in the schools. As Extension isn't alone in working on PSE. You know, the health departments utilize PSE a lot because I think there really is, there's a lot of research behind these mutually reinforcing messages. So while Julia is in the school and teaching, the school is also implementing some PSE. So those messages are like constantly reinforcing each other, and that's really effective. Just to throw that in there.
And then looking at that partners and coalition work, we are really involved with the Marathon County Hunger Coalition, which is housed out of the United Way. And some of the PSE type of work that they're doing is gleaning at farmers markets. And that is a concept where towards the end of the market, farmers maybe don't want to go home with the stuff that they harvested for that market. So they donate it to the gleaning table, and then that food is brought to a food pantry or to some sort of organization that can utilize it to help their clients. They do mobile pop-up pantries where they're doing a pantry in different parts all around the county. So the last one was at Edgar Elementary, and I think they're planning on doing one at the library this month. And then they have a program that started a couple years ago. They're calling it Farm to Family, where they are doing like a CSA type style box. So the farmers provide the food for these boxes, and then the boxes are distributed at food pantries. So people are getting a box filled with local fresh produce from local farmers, which is really great.
And we just got some recent statistics for you in here. Some of our work in 2023, we engaged with 240 learners of all ages, and some of our other work involved outreach to Hmong elders and women by partnering with the Hmong American Center, ADRC, and the women's community. And we were also able to glean over 5,000 pounds of food with the Marathon County Hunger Coalition from the farmers market to get that food to food pantries. Again, we are kind of consistently seeking feedback from our audiences when we do provide education. Sometimes it's just to youth, sometimes just to adults, and then sometimes with parents and kids together. So here's just some feedback from some FoodWise participants. Feel free to, I won't read it to you if you want to peruse that.
And then here's a list of some of our current and past partners. We're all kind of new in our roles, so some of these are partners that our predecessors worked with, and some of them are partners that we're working with right now. And that's all that we have for you today. So what questions do you have for us, or Jeremy?
Any questions?
Or any questions about my
Janice.
plate?
Thank you, guys. That's awesome. So I'm thinking of the families that we're serving, and they're coming from countries where a lot of the food they eat are fresh, and but the vegetables and fruit that we offer are totally different ones than they have in their countries. So is there a way maybe we can work together to educate them on the vegetables that we have, maybe a prep session time with them? That's a thought that I've been going through my head. Prep session with especially the mothers, because most of them are the ones that are home preparing that. And I know that the Boys and Girls Club is open to that as well. So I just wanted to see if that's something that we can work together in creating.
Yes is the answer.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Any other questions, comments? Supervisor Lemmer?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I've been watching the Farm Bill discussion, and since you're all SNAP focused, I have concerns, I think, because the proposals don't look awesome for your funding. Do you have, I don't know, thoughts, advice, needs? Are you looking at the Farm Bill?
Well, I hadn't looked at the Farm Bill. I wasn't concerned, but now I am. So thank you.
I mean, Extension in general is always concerned about the Farm Bill, but yeah, I guess we take our guidance from our statewide leadership. There are often a lot of points of contention with new farm bills, so there are kind of ongoing discussions. I mean, I think we know, everyone within the FoodWise program does know where our funding comes from, and we're aware of that. Things generally work out in a way that is okay. I mean, of course, we're working within budget constraints all the time, right? So I think the FoodWise program has consistently had to shift how this work gets done. I know specifically in Marathon County, there used to be a cohort of educators, right? And now in areas there may be one educator, or there may be one educator that serves a couple counties, or in our case, educators that serve multiple counties, because we're kind of always looking at, realistically, typically you don't continue to get more money to do programming. So I think FoodWise is, as far, we're not at the state level, so I don't know how deep they're talking about this, but it seems to me that there's constant conversations going on of how will we continue to do this work in meaningful ways, and how can we continue to be creative and shift how, just because we've always done something one way, maybe we can still be effective in other ways.
Yeah, and I guess I'll just add, we're all state employees, can't really engage in the policy side of things, so we can keep aware of them, but are dependent upon others to kind of do that work. So maybe an encouragement for county board members who are interested to reach out to folks who have some sway in that. I think is a good way to approach that. But.
Well, I would be one, because I am concerned. I think food insecurity is growing. It's not getting less, and the proposals on the table right now are almost $30 billion cut to SNAP over 10 years. So, but that's still very substantial. But I think I would need just some guidance on who to reach out to. And I don't know if there are constraints. Maybe the administrator would have, if that's an individual thing, or, I don't know if we have to dance around some of that as well.
Well, given that it's action being taken by the federal government, local federally elected individuals are the ones that ultimately get to vote on those proposals. So certainly as any individual resident has the ability to reach out and make their feelings known to their elected representatives, or alternatively, certainly the county board could take a policy position through a resolution and pass that on like you relatively frequently do with your state reps.
If I might just add a little bit to that too, just for you, kind of your information, it's hard for us as state employees to proactively provide information, but we can respond to requests. So if you're looking for information and we had a request, then we can provide information related to that. So, yeah.
Thank you. Anybody else? No? Then we can move on to the partnership guidance document.
All right. Thank you. Oh, boy. You want to co-pilot with me? Thanks. So a little bit of background on this. In your packet is the county partnership guidance document. This was developed a few years ago in collaboration with the Wisconsin Counties Association. In the last few years, there was a county's oversight committee for related to extension. That committee kind of lost function, I would say, during COVID. In the past year has been reformed and is now looking at some of the kind of foundational pieces of the relationship between counties and extension. And one of the things that they're in review of right now is this county partnership document. So the Wisconsin Counties Association committee asked extension to share this with each of the county committees as an opportunity to provide feedback on that document. Right now, it's just that. It's a guidance document. There's no formal acceptance of it or an MOU or anything like that, but it does kind of just lay out the set of roles for both the county and extension. And again, we're a little bit unique as a county department because of us being a state-funded and co-funded program and having state employees functioning within a county department, basically. So hence the need for clarification in a document. So the document just lays out, again, what the roles are, particularly around the area extension director, my role, functioning as department head, how the employees are state employees, with the exception of county support staff. In some counties, we don't have that in Marathon County, so that part's less relevant. And then there's a piece in there about volunteers. One of the nice things about Extension's state status relative to the county is that all of our volunteers are not county volunteers, right? Those fall within UW-Madison policies and risk and all of that. So that's all laid out in there. The county responsibility, which is primarily around providing facilities, IT support, and budget kind of set up in there within the county budget, and then how all of these things are managed. So that's all in there. If you have any questions about anything specifically, I'm happy to go into those. But if you have any feedback, I'm happy to take that tonight. But also, if you want a little bit more time to dig into it and you want to shoot me an email about something that seems odd or you're wondering about, I'm happy to take that way too. So.
Great, thank you. Any questions or comments for Jeremy? No? All right, well, thank you very much. Our next meeting, date and time, announcements and future agenda items. So the committee members are asked to bring ideas for future discussion. So don't hold back. The next meeting is Thursday, July 11th at 3 p.m., which is a week later than we usually meet because of the 4th of July. And then just a couple announcements. Rural Partners Network meeting is June 13th, 2024 at Rothschild Pavilion. Registration is required. Maybe Administrator Leonard could talk a little bit about what that is.
Well, I don't know that I can talk about what it is, but I think it's an opportunity. I think Jeremy was the one that passed it along. Marathon County's not a member, but this event is open to anyone who'd like to register. If you go through that process, I think the information is in the packet. There's a link in the packet. So you can go and learn about what it is, perhaps more than I, but it's a network, an opportunity where there are going to be a number of vendors and agencies, whether they're federal agencies or nonprofit agencies, that you can learn about and how they might impact or be a partner in economic development for Marathon County. Particularly, I know one of the issues that they're going to be talking about is housing, which this committee certainly is interested in and has been talking about for a while. So if there's some information there, perhaps that could help clarify what exactly that county role is, which you did through resolution, the board did through resolution relatively recently, but also start to move into action. I think it was an opportunity that, thanks to, again, to Jeremy for passing that on. That's why it's in your packet.
Thank you, Jeremy. Do you have anything to add for that?
Maybe just a tiny little bit of background on it. As Lance mentioned, Marathon County isn't part of the network formally. There are, I think it's 4 pilot networks in the state that were developed. So it's led by USDA and particularly the Wisconsin State Program, coming out of a pilot that was done in Georgia, I think, a couple of years ago. And so USDA has been looking at, particularly the Rural Development Program, has been looking at how do they better serve local communities and make sure that communities are getting access to federal resources in particular. So they established the networks as kind of direct links. The intent is to be direct links to federal agencies and related state agencies and organizations. So that said, that's not to mean that in the future, if there was interest that Marathon County couldn't be part of a new network. But generally, it's just an opportunity to learn about federal resources and related state resources. So I think it's a good opportunity to check out.
Excellent. Thank you for sharing that. So if you're interested, you must register. And then secondly, next month after our meeting, we will have a tour of the Marathon County Historical Society, if anyone's interested in participating with that. So next on the agenda is adjournment. Do I have a motion to adjourn? We have Vice Chair Pfeiffer and seconded by Supervisor Rosenberg. All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? No. All right. We are adjourned. Thank you.